Sorry. Welcome to Journey Church. Glad you're here this morning. We're in a series called Greatness, and we're keeping it real. A few things that I want to make sure that you know what's going on, especially if you're a guest here. You are the VIP. You are our favorite people because we love new people. And at the back, there's our VIP area. Be sure and stop back there. We got a gift for you. We want to love on you, encourage you, and help you get connected if you want to take that next step. And had a big celebration last Sunday. I know some of you missed that, but maybe we'll try to post that video on our Facebook page for Journey Church of our baptisms last Sunday. Great celebration. Had a great time celebrating Annie and Sazo. And then this is a really big win we had in July. We had 10 brand new givers. So there's 10 brand new people that have agreed to the mission and are starting to contribute towards the mission. That's very exciting. And that just means we get to give more away because, last Sunday we were able to help a family at Chestatee High School. A week before that, we were able to help some other families that were in the process of adoption. So remember, every time that you give, that just means we get to be more generous. When you're generous, Journey is generous. And so we're excited about that. And also, since last year, we've almost doubled in attendance since last year, which is really exciting as well. So we're definitely growing. God is working, and we're very excited about that. Now, next Sunday, don't forget, next Sunday is First Responder Sunday. So you don't want to miss that. We're going to be celebrating firemen, paramedics, policemen, all of those that fall in that category of first responders. Because that's what this series is all about, is how to really find greatness, how to wake up in the morning and know that your life matters. Because if you're like me, I don't just want to live, I actually want to know that I'm contributing. When I spend my day, I want to know, was the world better because I lived today? Did it really matter? We all face that question in our life, over and over at different seasons. Does my life really matter? What is life really about? And there is this thing in us that we want to be great. We all do, and it goes back to a bad thing in one sense that we're all prideful. We all want credit. We all want to know that you think we're great. And so that can take you down a really dangerous path. But the seed of that, in its purest form, is from God. God did create you to be great, but it wasn't supposed to be defined by the world. It wasn't supposed to be defined by Satan. It was supposed to be defined by God and how He declares that greatness is found. And so the only place that you can get the answers to that question is, how do I achieve greatness without being prideful? How do I achieve greatness without being arrogant? How do I achieve greatness and make a difference in the world, but do it in such a way that my pride is not the issue, that it doesn't become about me? And I think that's the tension that we all live in every day. I want to be great, but I don't want it necessarily to be all about me because I know that there is a God and I'm not Him. So how do we achieve that? What does that look like? And so we're going to jump in to Philippians today, and God's going to teach us another principle of greatness and how to achieve it God's way. So let's jump right in here in Philippians chapter 2, and he says this. This is the Apostle Paul, a true historical figure, an incredible man, wrote this letter to us. He said this, Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from His love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition. You see that? So ambition in and of itself isn't a bad thing. It's when your ambition becomes selfish. When you want to be great so that it's all about you, that's selfish ambition. But I think many times we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater and we've tried to over-spiritualize it. And in some circles, we've said that, hey, if you're a Christ follower, you can't have any ambition. But that's not what Paul says. He says, no selfish ambition or vain conceit. In other words, making it all about you. You can have ambition as long as it's God's way and not just your way. He says, rather in humility, here it is, rather in humility, value others above yourselves. Remember that. Value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of the others. I believe this is one of the hardest, most challenging principles of Christianity, is this idea that greatness is found in putting value in others. And he goes on, he says this, in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. So how did Jesus think? Who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. So the God of the universe, your creator, modeled this for you. He did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. How many times have you had an opportunity to use your position, your power, your prestige, your place in life, and use it to your advantage when you could have used it to help other people? That's something we all have to ask ourselves that question. He says, rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Therefore, God exalted him. Look at the results of valuing others. Look what God did. He says, therefore, God exalted him to the highest place. He made him the greatest. After he humbled himself to death, then he made him the greatest. He exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So here's the big idea. Here's the main thing. It's very simple. Greatness is found in adding value to others. That's exactly what Jesus did. Jesus didn't come for himself. He came for you. He came to make you better. He came so that you could have an opportunity to be set free from your selfish ambition, from your vain conceit, from a life of mediocrity, from a life of confusion, from wondering if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Why do I even exist? God sent his son Christ to clear all that up for you so that you could find life here on this crazy earth. And there's really only one way to find that, and that's when you add value to others, and that is greatness. So let me give you some life application principles from this passage you can actually apply to your life. The first thing is this. Number one, discover simple ways to provide a daily touch. Discover some simple ways that you can provide a daily touch. If you're a company, if you have a company, if you're owner of a company, if you're a boss somewhere in your company, there's a lot of ways that you can do this. Even when your company becomes large, you can still add these daily touches. Here's a story from a mid-sized company where they decided that they wanted to add daily value. And so it was impossible for the CEO to spend these large amounts of time because there was too many employees. But he was determined to find some way that he could daily add value to the people that made his company great. So this is what he did. Every Monday morning, he would visit each desk, cubicle, and office, and he would drop off a piece of candy. Now, you might be thinking, oh, a piece of candy, big deal. But as this creative leader dropped off a piece of candy, he would share a few words with each of the people that he was leading that day. And it was a deliberate and conscious effort to provide a daily touch each week. It's a lot easier to ask for a hand if you've taken the time each week to touch a heart. So here's the question for you. The people in your life, especially if you're in business, most all of you work somewhere, how can you add a daily touch to the people that are around you? And it doesn't have to be some grandiose big thing that you do. It's the simple things. How can you touch somebody's heart? How can you encourage someone? And here's what that'll do. If you're at a place where you're going to work every day and it's become this mundane, this monotony of this going through a routine of life, and you've lost that joy, you've lost the fun of going and being with those people, here's how you can turn that around. If you'll start looking at your place of employment as a place of ministry, as a place of opportunity, and looking at how you can daily add value to the people that are around you, I promise you it'll change you. It'll change you because now you're not waking up in the morning thinking, poor me. You're waking up in the morning with this purpose of making the people that are around you in your workplace better. And so you ask yourself this question when you get up in the morning, what can I do today that would add value to the people that I work with? See, that's a much greater reason to go to work than just to get a paycheck, right? The reason we get stuck in these ruts is because we don't realize we even get there. It creeps in so slowly that we make it all about us. Well, the boss used to do this, and this company used to be great because it used to do this, and, I used to have this office, now I got this office, and it's just not the same anymore, and all of that is about you. And the reason you're miserable is because you're living for you. And you didn't even realize that you got there. But that's usually the cause and reason of misery in our life, is because we have gotten to this place of all we're thinking about is ourselves. Poor me, woe me. And you're never going to find joy there. But one of the quickest ways to get out of that is to live this life that Christ created us to live, to consider others better than ourselves. What if you did something for your boss on a weekly basis? You did something for your boss to add value to him. What is that daily touch? And then in your family, one of the ways I love to do this with my wife is I like to buy her flowers, and it's easy to do, and she loves it, and I love it. I go spend $10 on a big bouquet of flowers, and you bring them in, and you put them in a vase, and you set them on the bar in the kitchen, and the whole family gets to enjoy it. It's just this small little touch, but it means something, right? Because it's more than just the flowers. What does it say? It says that you were thinking about her. I was thinking about her. And those are the little things that make life a lot greater. So how can you do that with your spouse? How can you do that with your kids? Sometimes I like to surprise my kids. I don't do it very often, but sometimes I'll just go to one of their favorite restaurants, and I'll grab, their favorite lunch, and I'll just show up at the school that day, and I'll drop off, some simple lunch that they enjoy, and it makes their day. They love it. It's not hard to do, but it's just this little touch that makes a difference. So what can you do in your life this week to add a touch to someone and let them know you're thinking about them? Number 2 is this: find the need and fill it. There are opportunities for you to literally change somebody's life every day. There's not a single day in your life that goes by that you don't have an opportunity to change somebody's life. You just have to open your eyes to it and see it. But every day there's somebody in your circle. There's somebody that you're going to have contact with. There's somebody that you're going to have influence in that you can figure out what a need is and then fill it. So do you see this pattern? You see this pattern that's developing? Now, all of a sudden, life isn't about you trying to find happiness for you. Life is about you adding value to those that are around you. And then guess what's probably going to result from that? You're probably going to be happier. You're probably going to feel a lot better about you and your life when you start thinking about the people that are around you. So right now, some of you right now know that a specific name came to your mind. A specific need came to your mind. Now all you got to do is fill it. And you don't have to solve the whole problem. All you got to do is fill it. Maybe you need to take somebody a meal. Maybe you need to help somebody out at their house with yard work. Or maybe there's a single mom that has a mechanical thing that needs to be fixed, and you got the skills to fix it. And maybe it's time for you to stop praying for that, and you actually go be the answer to the prayer. Go meet the need. Go fill the need. And I guarantee, I promise you, this is what will happen. She'll give you the rest of the to-do list. No, I'm just kidding. I promise what will happen is you'll get home that night, and you're going to feel a lot better about you and why you're here on this earth. Why? Because when you can't stay selfish in your ambition, you can't stay vain and conceited when you're doing things for other people. You can't do it. It's virtually impossible. When you start to do things for other people, it solves that tension in your being. And that's where life change begins to happen. And that's why God put you here. So what is that need that you need to fill? Number 3, platform others for success. This is one of my favorite ones. Platform others for success. Now this is one of the riskiest ones. This is the one that we're the most afraid of. This is one we probably all struggle with the most. Platform others for success. What does that mean? It means that you literally consider others better than yourselves. I was out road biking with Billy just this last week, and Billy is new guy here, and he's leading worship now, and we're bringing him in to more of a staff role here at Journey. I'm very excited about Billy. He's an answer to prayer. We were biking, and it just hit me while we were biking. And God told me to tell him this. And this doesn't happen like a lot, okay? But this was very clear. And I just looked over at Billy, and I said, Billy, I said, man, you're a better leader than I am. And we almost wrecked, you know? He's like, what? I'm like, yeah. I said, dude, yeah, you're already a better leader than I am. So I thank God for you. I'm so glad you're here. And then, I smoked him on the bike because I had to win, somehow or another, right? The vain conceit, it always creeps in, right? But I truly believe that. I believe that Billy is a better leader than I am. But that's a win because now he's going to sharpen me. He's going to help me grow in leadership. But doesn't that tap into our insecurity? You remember when your boss hired that other person and they came into the company, what were you afraid of? You're afraid they're going to take your job, right? But what if you went to your boss and you said that out loud? What if you just got real and said, you know what? I just need to expose my insecurity here. This is where I'm struggling. This is what I'm feeling, and just say it out loud. It's scary, isn't it? But when you do that, that's where you begin to find freedom. Because when you start dealing with your own insecurities, see, your insecurity is the very thing that's holding you back. Your insecurity is what's keeping you from reaching your full potential. You are in your own way because you're so afraid that somebody's going to be better than you. Well, let's do it Jesus' way. That's exactly what Jesus said to do. Make them better than you. What if it was your goal for the company that you worked for that you elevated the people that were around you? That every person that was close to your employment at your place of work, your goal was to help them get better at what they do. You see that? Now all of a sudden you're not afraid of losing your job. And if I'm a boss of a company and there's a person in my company who has that mindset, I want 100 more of them. Imagine what a company could achieve when the people start thinking like that. When they start, instead of living in insecurity, which kills any kind of progress, and they start platforming the people around them and wanting them to succeed, it's a game changer. That's a game changer. And you know what will happen in your company, wherever it is that you work? Your boss says she can't help but recognize that and see that. And you'll become even more valuable to the company. See, that's the part we can't see. See, your value is never greater when you make other people more valuable. That's what makes you great, is when you look at other people as being better than yourself and you want them to succeed even more. And when you start thinking like that and living like that, you will be set free from a life of insecurity, and it will no longer be about you anymore. You'll be completely okay. And now it's called the bombshell effect. When this little bomb goes off in you, it's going to affect all the people around you. And that will be your moment of greatest value when you can get there. So platform others for success. Work yourself out of a job. Consider the people around you better than yourself. How can you help them reach their fullest potential? Number 4, bring something to the table. I grew up in what I would say was a very fortunate and valuable home experience that I would dare say in our modern culture we probably don't see much anymore. And it might have even been a little bit out of the norm then, but when it's all you think it's the norm. But when I was growing up, my dad would come home 5:30 every day. We'd turn on Andy Griffith, and we watched Andy Griffith. That's where I grew up, was in Mount Airy, Mayberry, where the show originated from. And so it was like this amazing experience. We got to watch Andy Griffith in Andy Griffith's hometown. He was born 10 minutes from where I was born, and that's what we did. And then we had dinner together, and we all sat together for dinner. This was the norm. This was not the exception. And most all of the food that was on the table came from the backyard. My dad always had this garden where he raised his own vegetables. And every summer, this was the worst part of my life at that point, was I was always breaking beans, shucking corn, weeding the garden, and I absolutely despised it. I hated it with a passion until winter came. Because when winter came and we went down into the cellar and we'd grab those mason jars of green beans, or we'd get that sweet cream corn out of the freezer, and we would have those potatoes that we'd bring out of the cellar, and we would have this amazing meal, all vegetables that we grew ourselves. My dad's like 65 now. He doesn't take any kind of medication, never has in his life. I can't remember the last time he's gone to the doctor, and I think it's because he has spent most of his life eating what he grew out of the dirt behind the house. I don't know if there's a healthier way to live. So I had this experience, and Mom always brought something great to the table, and we all benefited from it. To this day, like I'm 42 now, and yeah, my numbers were a little off, last week, but I feel like that my mom and dad gave me this foundation of health, right? That so many of us don't have today, because we don't have as much land as we used to have. We don't have the time that we used to have to to work in the dirt like that. That sometimes we're just not. I don't think we're as healthy as we used to be because of that. But all of us have something to bring to the table. And so what you do is every time you go to a meeting, every time you spend time with your family, every time you spend time with friends, always be thinking in the back of your head, what can I bring to the table? So if you're in a staff meeting, what can you bring to the table that will benefit others? It could be an article. It could be a conference that you went to. It could be a conversation that you had. But if you always think about how you can add value to every meeting that you have, every time that you're with other people, how can you bring something to the table that will benefit the people that are around you? It's a game changer. Now, all of a sudden, you are living in this, and you're living in greatness. Why? Because you're not making life about you anymore. You're not playing the victim anymore. You're not going, poor me anymore. You're not going, I don't have this. It's all about what you can give. It's all about what you can bring to the table. You are a beautiful creation of God, and you always have something to bring to the table. What are you going to bring? How are you going to add value to your family? How are you going to add value to your spouse? How are you going to add value to your friends? How are you going to add value to your company? I believe this is the way Jesus wanted us to live. And if you call yourself a Christ follower, well, then you're held to a whole nother standard. That this is exactly how you're supposed to live. And this is counterculture. The world is going downstream, right? The world's model for greatness is use people, step on people, take advantage of every opportunity to promote yourself, to highlight yourself, to make yourself great at all costs. Whatever it takes, you get there. And then there's this collateral damage. There's this wake, there's this body count that you leave in your wake when you live downstream. But Jesus called us to live counterculture. And what I'm teaching you today is it's not easy. It's not complicated. It's very simple, but it's not easy. Here's the question. Will you do the hard work of going upstream? Will you do the hard work of giving God your insecurity and living in freedom to where you can actually add value to the people that are around you? And I'm telling you, that's when you're going to be happy. Chasing your own selfish ambition, living in your own vain conceit is a miserable place to live. I was just reading recently where Michael Phelps, after not the Rio Olympics, but Olympics before, where he achieved greatness, certainly in the athletic spectrum, in the world of sports. He had achieved greatness, but then he fell into depression. He had reached the climax of what the athletic world has to offer, and he felt more empty than ever before. Why is that? And how many times have we heard that story over and over? That he achieved what we all think is great and what we all kind of dream about and fantasize about achieving. And yet he fell into depression. Even thought about taking his own life. Imagine if Michael Phelps had taken his life. We all would have stood back and just questioned everything. Why? Because that's exactly where downstream leads you. It leads you to death and destruction. You're not going to get what you want. You'll literally lose your life that way. It doesn't work. It doesn't fulfill you. And so one of Michael Phelps' good friends, he was an NFL football player, I forget his name, gave Michael a book. You know what the book was? The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And he began to read that book, and that's when his life started to turn. And I don't know if you noticed in this last Olympics how Michael was spending time with some of the younger swimmers. And they were highlighting these moments where when Michael was swimming and this kid was 13 years old and competing, and then one of those kids beat him in the Rio Olympics. And Michael was platforming someone else for success. Michael began to see that true greatness will be found when you look at the people that are around you, consider them better than yourself, because Michael began to realize that we all are going to experience OLD, right? And that these younger swimmers are going to be the future. And so Michael was finding his greatness and helping them get there. Isn't that beautiful? There's no better way to live. This is the answer for so many of our struggles. My value is greatest when I put the greatest value on others. How will you do that this week? What is it in you that has made you so desperate for the accolades of people? What is it in you that is so empty that you think that you have to have success and other people think you're great for you to feel okay about you? What is it that's missing in you? What is it that you're trying to self-medicate? What is it that you wake up every morning and you're reaching for this cloud, this dust that you can't quite get your hands on it? And every day is another day of just missing it. I believe at the root of it all, it is the lack of a relationship with your Creator. And that's why God sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to model for us this life of humility. Jesus did not consider equality with His Father. He made Himself a servant, humbled Himself until death on a cross, so that we could finally get a hold of something that matters, to get a hold of something that makes sense, so that we could live life the way God designed us to live it. And that's what it's about. That's why our mission is very simple. Go to God with your love. Go to others with His. This is where you're going to find greatness in your life. As the band comes up and as we respond, as we sing, I want you to ask yourself some questions about this. Why do you feel empty? Why do you keep trying this new thing? Maybe it's a substance, maybe it's another relationship, maybe it's another position, maybe it's a possession. What is it that you're chasing after? What is it that you're trying to get a hold of so that you can feel better about you? What is it that you need to let go of? What are your own insecurities that you just need to say to God? You just need to admit to God that you're insecure. And this is why. This is where it comes from. and give it to him. And start experiencing this freedom. Who is it this week that God has already put in your life that he wants you to add value to this week? Who is it in your life that you're afraid of? You're afraid they're going to take your job, or you're afraid that they're going to achieve something that you've been chasing and they're going to get there before you do. What needs to change in those dynamics of your life this week? That's where God wants to be this week. That's what he wants to change in you and in your world, in your life. But it starts with you surrendering and getting honest with him about what you really think and feel. So we invite you to respond. Maybe today you receive Christ for the first time in your life. You put down this selfish ambition and your vain conceit, and you simply say, God, I give up. I've been chasing a pipe dream, and I just can't seem to ever get it. God, I just want you. Here I am. I want to receive the grace and the forgiveness and the mercy of your Son, Jesus Christ, and I want to live in this new freedom. And God, I believe that it can only be found in you. And then you begin following Christ. And that's what it means to become a Christian. Will you stand? Let's respond.